So we left off, we're going to look at number 49. Number 49. Brody, now that you sneezed, can you read number 49 to me, please, my friend? Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to say DULP. Remember what DULP stood for? What did DULP stand for? Draw a little picture. Bowling ball. My circles are going to suck. Oh, wait a minute. I can totally cheat here. Brilliant, Mr. Dueck. Brilliant. So, draw bowling ball-ish. Okay, for you guys, that looks kind of ovally on my screen. There. Good enough. There's my bowling ball. It says a bowling ball is 264 centimeters in circumference. I'm going to go like this. 264, yes? Because they said circumference. Oh, no, that's not right. 264 centimeters in what? Okay. Circumference. What they've given me is the distance all the way around. Do I have an equation? First of all, what shape is all the way around a bowling ball? Circle. Do I have the equation for the circumference of a circle? What is it? How about in terms of the diameter? Is there one? Since that, 2 pi r? Okay, we'll do that. So here's what they've told me. Brody, they've told me the circumference. I think I can find the radius. I think, Marcus, I can find that. And then this distance here is going to be 2 of them. Is that okay? How would I get the r by itself? What would I do with that 2? What's the 2 doing to the r mathematically? Timesing, so how will I move it over? Divided. And what's the pi doing to the r mathematically? Also timesing, so how will I move it over? Divide. I think r is going to be 264 divided by 2 pi. Now that's 2 things down below, so if you get your calculator out, you want to put the bottom in brackets. What is 264 divided by 2 pi? You do need to know where the pi button is on your calculator. On my calculator, let's see, Mr. Dueck, let's boot up my calculator. 264 divided by bracket 2 times, and I'm going to use the pi button, close bracket. I get 42.017. I could probably round off to 42. Actually, I would try not to round off because, Kira, this isn't my final answer. I'm going to use this to find more stuff, so I think I'll just keep that on there. That's the radius. Am I wrong?
No, I didn't get that.
Did you put the bottom in brackets? You have to, because there's 2 numbers in the bottom. If you go 264 divided by 2 times pi, it thinks you want to multiply the pi unless you put it in brackets. Then that's the only way it knows you're dividing both. Or you could go like this, 264 divided by 2 divided by pi. Tell the calculator I'm dividing each one by 1, and that also will give you the 42.017. How can I find out then how long this distance is?
Times 42.017 by 2.
Times 2. I get 84.03. Is that okay, Amy? Can you read me this question? Actually, no, Brody, can you reread me the question? So what I think, if they give me the right-hand side of one of my equations for volume or for surface area or for circumference or for whatever, I can find something on this side. So they gave me the circumference, I can find the radius. Keep reading, my friend. Volume, I'm probably going to look at my volume section of my formula sheet in just a second. Keep going. I think the smallest cube that they're talking about would be something that looks kinda like that. Yes? Where the front part is 84.03. How long is this side? 84.03 because it's a cube. How long is this side? 84.03 because it's a cube. So how can I calculate the volume of that cube? Now, a cube isn't specifically on your formula sheet, but a box is.
Rectangular prism.
Yeah. What's the volume of a rectangular prism?
Area of base times height.
That's surface area. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Area of base times the height. What's the base?
The base is length times width.
So this is going to be, it's technically this, but what can you tell me? That's length times width times height. But what can you tell me about the length and the width and the height? They are all the same. You know what? The easiest is going to be just take the length and cube it. I think the volume of the cube, and yes, that's why we call it cubed. It comes from this shape, just like we call it squared because it comes from the square shape. It's going to be 84.03 cubed. It's going to be this number to the third power, and I get 5934, approximately 594,000 cubic centimeters. C. Marcus, that gives you an idea of how we can combine a couple of volume and circumference and mix and match and be a little bit clever and stuff like that. Naomi, you had a question? You good? Good? Yes, yes, yes. Is the answer C, by the way? Double check someone. Is that what it says? I hope, I think.
Yes.
Yay. Turn the page. So I talked about this term, Brady, called a net. When they ask for a net, what they're saying is, please imagine the shape cut open and laid flat like a piece of paper. Imagine taking a piece of a paper-made three-dimensional shape semi and cutting down the side of one side of it and smoothing it out flat. So which of the following nets best constructs the cone below? Well, let's see which ones I know are wrong. Are any of these that you know for sure are wrong? C and D, because I think that circle is attached to the bottom, not to the side. You kind of got to use your imagination. Alex said A. Which is better, A or B? Why A? You know what? Yeah, I think you have this curvy shape if you were to lay the cone part out flat. A. I haven't done a whole lesson on nets because to me, Alon, that's kind of use your imagination and think about it. But you know what they mean now by the term net. Cut a shape apart. Oh, and double check. Are the numbers in the right place? Yeah, that's 13. Yeah, that's 5. Number 41, using a protractor. Now, I need to double check. I don't think a protractor is mandatory. It says measure one of the unknown angles and determine the length of side X. As far as I know, a protractor isn't mandatory, and also my computer screen warps angles and makes shapes look different. As an example, by the way, this looks like a circle on my screen, but it looks kind of top stretched for you guys because the projector also warps things and my screen warps things. So I don't know if I can do this one, but anyhow, we're going to pass number 51 then. What's the answer to number 51?
The answer is B.
B?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I'm going to find out. Number 52. Tyler, can you read to me number 52, please, my friend?
In triangle ABC, angle C is 90 degrees.
DOLP. What does DOLP stand for? I think I'm going to draw a little picture. So I mean, it's going to be a right angle triangle. Which angle is my 90-degree angle, Tyler? So I'm going to go like this. Yump, yump, yump. And you're telling me that there is that, yeah? Now I'm going to put an A somewhere. I'm going to put a B somewhere. Which side is because I've drawn one side longer, which side is longer, AB or AC?
AB.
AB? I guess that's going to be like that. 17. Curtis, you could have put the B up top and the A on the bottom. Our diagrams will look different, but our math and final answer should be the same. What else have they told me, Curtis? We've done AB is 17. What else have they told me, kiddo? Let's put a little 15 on there. And this is what some of us had trouble with on the test, was reading this final phrase. Tyler, can you read to me this final phrase? Calculate the what?
Calculate the measure of angle AB.
The letters and the order makes a difference, so watch. Angle what? Can you read it to me again, Tyler?
Angle AB.
A, B, C. The first and last letter are the endpoints. The middle letter is the one they want you to find. So if they had said CAB, that would be the top angle. ABC is the bottom right. Yep.
So in other words, they just want us to find angle B?
Yes, but they're probably going to go with the three letter. See, the problem with angle B is if I have one more line, then that's angle B, that's angle B, that's angle. There's more than one. So we tend to use a three-letter approach unless it's very, very clear and very obvious that there's only one angle. Here, I think they could have said angle B, but even then somebody could have said, how do I know you don't want me to find that one? Which is also technically angle B. Okay, fair enough. So in geometry, we go three letters, and that narrows it down every time exactly. How am I going to find the angle? I don't think I need to go 180 minus angle. First of all, I don't know angle A.
Shift.
Okay, you know what? Because I only know two sides, I'm going to use the shift sine or shift cos or shift tan. Which one? Well, let's label my sides. Now, angle B is what I'm trying to find. 15, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. How about 17? Which trig function is OH? Conveniently, if you forget, it's on your formula sheet. It is sine, yes? Sine of B equals opposite over hypotenuse. Now, how do I find an angle? Now, I did see one question on one of the provincials where they didn't ask you to find the angle. They asked to show the steps. To show the shift sign button, I would go something like this. Angle B equals, the symbol for shift sign is a little -1. And that's why if you have a good calculator, have I gone on a rant about a good calculator? When you hit that shift sign, a little sign -1 appears on your screen. I know on mine it does. If I go second function sine, I get a little sign -1, bracket 15 divided by 17, and the angle is 62 degrees. All right. Number 53. Do I need to dollop this time?
No.
You know what? If they give you a picture, you can expect that it's a trick, sneaky question. Just going to be honest with you, Brianna. If they don't give you a picture, the diagram is probably straightforward. Brianna, my angel, can you read to me, please?
10 meter farmhouse.
Stop. Let's label that. 10 meter what? You missed a word. What word came after meter before the word farmhouse? Okay, so you know what? That's 10. Keep reading, my angel, from the word is.
Is located 28.0 meters away from the true and
stop. Oh, you know what? They put the 28 in the diagram for me. If not, that's what I would do next. Keep going.
The angle of the
Remember, angle of elevation is on the way up. What if they had said angle of depression? That would be from my eyes straight down, which wouldn't make much sense in this question. You'd be somehow looking at the bottom of the tree. But, yep, keep going.
from the roof of the farmhouse to the eagle's nest is 30 degrees.
What do they want me to find? Okay, they want me to find that distance there. I was going to put an h for height, but because h stands for hypotenuse, you know what? I'm going to call that x. How am I going to find x? Can anybody see it?
Make a second triangle.
Make a second triangle? You mean this one here? Is that what you're saying? And I can find this height.
Yeah.
I'll call it y since I used x already. And then what? Add 10. And that's why I said this is going to be a trick question. I guarantee the answer for forgetting to add 10, that's there somewhere. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they made that one a, because that's the way they roll. Okay, we got our triangle. Let's label our sides. That 28, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse?
Jason.
Adjacent. How about that y?
Opposite.
Which trig function? What some of you did this weekend? What always goes next to the trig function? The angle. Did they tell me the angle this time? Yeah, this is not a shift button. Tan 30 equals y over 28. Is y going to be 28 times tan 30, or is y going to be 28 divided by tan 30? And if you're not sure, cross multiply and do the math. I think it ends up being 28 times tan 30. You know what? I'm going to be really clever. Marcus, you told me that x was going to be 10 plus y. So it's going to be 10 plus 28 tan 30, because that's what y is. Yeah? Well, I'm just going to type that into my calculator. I can do that. And that way I don't have to round off along the way. 10 plus 28 tan 30. Apparently the eagle is 26.2. Oh, 26 meters high. By the way, what's 26 take away 10? Told you they'd put that answer first to really tempt kids to pick it. I can think like them. I was one of them once. Okay. Is that okay, Ashley? No? Yes? Yeah. Simi, yeah? Did you have a question, kiddo, or not? Good. Okay. Turn the page. 54. Ann and Brian. A and B. That's kind of convenient. Positioned themselves 35 meters apart. Ann measured the angles as shown below. Calculate the height of the cliff on the other side of the stream. Anthony, how many triangles do you see in this picture? You know how many steps of trig we're probably going to end up doing in this picture? 2? Yeah. It looks like we got one flat right angle triangle. See it? And one vertical right angle triangle. See it? So what are we trying to find? Which is the height of the cliff in this picture? Let's put an X there. Can you guys see that okay? I'll make it red so it stands out a bit more. A little easier to see. When they give me two triangles, I may rewrite both of them, resketch. So that second triangle, the one that I just did an X in, has a 68-degree angle right here and a 90 there. And that's A. Then there's the flat triangle. That's the one that looks like this, where this is 35. That's A. And that's 36 degrees, and that's B. Ann and Byron. Hey, Sam, how about we call this here C? And how about we call this here, give me a suggestion? We called this A, this B, we called this C. What would, did you say D? Did you have to think about it for a while? Yeah, okay. Is that all right, kiddo? Let's label those letters in our diagram too, because I think this here is C, C, D. Is that okay, Marcus? Some of you may already see where we're going, but just in case they gave me a nastier one, Brady, this is how I think I'd approach things. Because can you see, no pun intended, there is one side that appears in both? What appears in both of my triangles? That's a letter. I need a side. 2 letters, please. AC. It's the hypotenuse in the flat triangle. It's adjacent in the vertical triangle. And by the way, this is really, until we got the fancy smancy laser pointers and stuff, this was how a surveyor could work with a team member and, again, find the height across the river without having to cross the river. This is indirect measurement. This was a gold. This was a gold mine. This is wonderful. This is awesome. Suggestions. Anybody want to talk me through it? Find AC in the bottom triangle. Okay, so this 35, Darian, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? I agree. What about this one here? Okay, which trig function? Which one? You sure now? Phone a friend? Yeah, you change your answer? Cos of 36 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. We're dividing by the hypotenuse. You can cross multiply. I think these were the ones when you were dividing where you ended up with dividing. 35 divided by cos 36. You get 43.26. So I'll label that up here, 43.26. Is that okay, Ashley? Big enough? Can you see, I hope? Now, my small little triangle, I'll zoom in, make it a bit bigger. I'm going to label it. What's the x opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Opposite? What about the 43.26, which was the hypotenuse in the bottom triangle? What is it in the vertical triangle? Which trig function? Tan. 68 equals mystery side over 43.26. I think the mystery side is going to be 43.26 times the tan of 68. And Amy, instead of using 43.26, since I still have this number stored in my calculator, I'm just going to go times, use my answer button, tan 68. I get 107.1. Please tell me that's an answer that shows up. I hope. Woohoo! D. We're nearly there. We now come to the numerical response section, and I wanted to walk through this just so you know how this is done. So you'll get a piece of paper, a page, and it'll have some places for numerical response. The way what you do is you print 1 digit per square like this. If it's negative, you'll color in a little negative symbol. If it's positive, you can color in the positive symbol, or if you leave it blank, they'll also clue in that that's positive. The same way, Kira, we don't put plus signs in front of every positive number. We assume it's positive. We say, tell us if it's negative. So if you wanted to write negative 70.2, You would color in the negative. They'll have a decimal point right there, so you'll put a 2 after the decimal point. You'll put a 0 there. You'll put a 7 there. Or if you wanted to write the number 4, you could write it as just a 4, or you could go positive 4, and in fact, if you put 2 zeros there, they'll still mark that right, although that's extra unnecessary writing.
Did they actually have this on credential, like response like this?
Yes, this is what I'm saying. This is how you'll do it. Okay? If you get an answer like 2/3, you can't write 2/3. You have to decimalize it. So 2/3, you would go 2 divided by 3, which is 0.67, and you would write it like that. Okay? So, 55. This is testing function notation. You know how I can tell? Because I see g of t. Instead of y and x, it looks like they're using y and t, but it's going to be the same kind of an idea. It says, given the graph of y equals g of t below, determine the value of t for which g of t equals -3. Now, underneath that question, can you write this? G bracket -3 equals. Those are two very different questions, even though they both have -3s. Amber, in the one that we just hand wrote, g of -3, what that's saying is, wherever there used to be a letter t, replace it with a what? It's saying that's your x value, find the y value. The answer to the one that we've written would say, for an x value of -3, what's the y value? -1. If they had given me this question, that would be the answer. That's not the question they gave me. Marcus, here's what they're saying. I don't know the x value, but I'm telling you the y value is -3 high. So we're going to go to -3 high, 1, 2, -3 high, and we're going to find the x value, yoink, yoink, that belongs with it. What x value, t value, belongs with, or gives you an answer of, gives you a height of -3, -5. And I would argue, Ben, the actual arithmetic here is counting and easy. It's interpreting the question that's the tricky part, especially because the two questions that I just showed you look very, very similar. So I've tried to give you a way you can keep straight what is what. If they give you something sitting where the x is, that number is the x value, go find the y value. If they give you a variable where the x is, and they give you a number on the other side of the equal sign, they're saying that's the y value, find the x value with it. Number 56. Here's a system. Can you tell me why I would choose to use substitution for this? They already got the x by itself. So what does x equal? 4y. Wherever I see an x, what can I write instead? 4y. What can I replace every x with, Amy? So in the equation 1, I'm going to get this. 3 bracket 4y plus 4y equals -16. Alex K., what am I going to write now? Oh, yeah, wow, yeah, sorry. I was going to say 12y plus 4y equals -16, but you did that all in your head. You caught me off guard. You're saying that 16y equals -16. I agree. Alex, what's y equal to? Did you say -1? Because it's hard for me to understand what you're saying, especially because you're not moving your lips at all, so it's really hard for me to read your lips. -1? That's not what they wanted me to find. What did they want me to find? Solve for what? What's x the same as? 4y. What did you just tell me y was? I guess x is going to be 4 times -1. Alex, since you did so well in your head, what is 4 times -1? Okay, so if you were coloring this, it would look like that, is what you would write in. And you'll have a sheet with spaces to do that. Nearly done. 57. Marcus, I think this is a word opportunity. Okay. And probably, I hate to say this, they'll probably give you a word problem as a numerical response, because if they give it to you as multiple choice, can't you just look at the 4 answers and try them out to see which ones work? That's why we've added a short written section like this, to try and ask questions that normally you would just try the multiple choice answers and defeat that. So, Garrett, how about read this to me? You know what? How many things have they just mentioned? How many? I'm going to argue two variables, I think. 3 things, but 2 variables. I think there's going to be 2 equations. You could use X for hex bolts and Y for anchor bolts. You know what? I'm going to say, how about H and A? Is that okay? Read to me again. Start from the top. Stop. That's an equation. Read to me again. Stop. Yep. Yeah, times, right? 12 of them. If you want to add them all up, even though you're adding 12 8 times. Keep reading, Garrett, my friend. Stop. And. There's the plus sign you were looking for. Keep reading. 10 anchor bolts, suggestion? Yeah. Weighs, I think that's an is 7. If you add them up, that's your weight. Keep going. Stop. I agree. Keep going. Stop. Did you say and? I think that's a plus. Keep going. 15A. Keep going. What do they want us to find here, kiddo? They want me to find H, I guess. Okay. Let's solve this. No, I wouldn't use substitution here. Trying to get an H or an A by itself is going to be yucky, so I'm going to use elimination. Let's get rid of the A's, because that's going to give us the H's quicker. How could I get rid of the A's? 30. I'll turn one into a positive 30, one into a negative 30. So how about, Darian, I multiply the first equation by what? Negative 3. And I'll even do the little loops so I don't screw up. Negative 36H. Take away 30A equals negative 21. Most common mistake I saw on the tests was people forgetting to multiply the 7. They would just drop it down. Darian, what are we going to multiply the second equation by?
2.
By 2. That's going to give me 10H positive 30A equals 8. By the way, for what it's worth, Darian, I would have multiplied the first equation by positive 3 and the second equation by negative 2, because I find I make less mistakes when the negatives are below the positives. But that's me being really paranoid. So you're fine. Now what? Nope. You're adding. Don't subtract. We're adding. Why are we adding? Because that's how the middle one's canceled. If you subtract, you'd have negative 30 minus 30 more, which would be negative 6. We're going to add. That's going to give me negative, that's a 0, negative 26h equals negative
13.
h is going to be a negative divided by a negative. Marcus, what's a negative divided by a negative? It's going to be 13 over 26, which is what as a decimal?
0.5.
Yeah, it's a half, isn't it? Try it. So if you were coloring it in, that would look something like this. You would go positive 0.5, and you could put a 0 there or just leave it blank. $58, then 59, then 60. So 58, and then we're done. Exam number. How many of these numerical response?
Yeah.
How many are there on this one? That many. I think it's the last 6.
Yeah, last 6.
Yep. Darian, the reason those are on there, as teachers, we're hoping if we get those on there at the end, that we might be able to push the government in actually putting a written section back on this exam, that we can mark things and give out part marks. So this is what our strategy right now. Baby steps. 58 is nasty. Kira, can you read 58 to me, please?
Number integer values are there specified for the support where it comes to y minus 9 y squared is factored.
All right, a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to ignore the y squared at the end. Remember, if we had something like this, x squared plus 5x plus 6, which factored into x plus 3, x plus 2. Don't write this down. If you put a y squared there and a y there, all that meant was if you put a y on the end, you had a y at the end of each. If they had said factor, I would have to take into account, but they didn't say factor. They said what? How? How? What? Second word after the word how. They want us to figure out how many ways this one will factor. Okay? What's the first thing that I always, yeah, there isn't GC. How many terms are there, Kira? 3. Okay. 3. Here's what this one is. Oh, is there something in front of the squared? There's something in front of the squared term. What?
4.
A 4. These are the yucky ones. Remember, Kira, we said this. If I said factor this, x squared plus 8x plus 12, there you would look for two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 8, and you would say, hey, 6 and 2. What if I gave you that? And I said, how many different ways can that factor? You're looking for two numbers that multiply to 12, yes, and add to, well, there's a bunch of possibilities. What numbers multiply to 12? Give me the first set. This could add to 13. That's one way that'll factor, if that was a 13. Give me another set of numbers that multiply to 12. Got another one? Got another one? There are.
Negative.
Ah. Right? Right? You could go -1, -12. That would give you a -13 right there, which would still factor. You could go, in fact, you know what? You could take this and for each one of those, there's a negative pair as well. There's a total of 6 different ways that'll factor. Now that's for when I don't have something in front of the squared, but that's what we're going to do, but with something in front of the squared. Okay? And the reason they said integer is they're saying don't worry about trying to find yucky decimals or anything like that. Kind of see what we're getting at here, Alex? All right, let's try it with this one. Now, for this one, I told you I'm going to ignore the y squared. That's not going to change how many different ways it factors. That's just going to change how it factors. I would look for two numbers that multiply to what? Not negative 9.
36.
Not 36.
Negative 36, I mean.
That's what we're looking for. Numbers that multiply to negative 36. Give me a second, folks. What numbers multiply to negative 36? Start with the obvious one. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. Plus or minus 1 and 36, where 1 is positive, 1 is negative. That's two possibilities. Right? Plus or minus 2 and 18, where 1 is positive and 1 is negative. That's two more possible. See where we're going? Plus or minus 3 and 12. That's two more possibilities, one positive, one negative. Why am I going? Because it multiplies to negative 36, so it could be positive 3, negative 12, or negative 3, positive 12, right? Next. Plus, we're almost done, by the way. Next. Am I going to count this one twice? If I say positive 6, negative 6, and then I say negative 6, positive 6, I think that's the same. Ooh, that's sneaky of them. I think that's the same thing. I think that's only going to count once. How many different ways is this factorable? Is the answer 9? Is that what it says in the back? I hope. Is that what it says? Woohoo! Okay. Here's the thing. They kind of like this question, although I've usually seen it as a multiple choice, multiple guess. This is an example of outside of the box, because Sam, I would argue, did I show you anything new here? I don't think we knew how to factor these. This was the decomposition method. What they're saying is, okay, how many different ways can you do the decomposition method if I tell you the first and the last? Okay. Okay. Nearly done. Two more. Oh, 59. Woohoo! Convert 150 pounds into kilograms. Answer to the nearest kilogram. What's the very first thing I'm going to do to start out? Write down what they gave me. 150. Do I have a conversion factor that relates pounds and kilograms?
Yes.
So I don't have to hopscotch my way and build a chain? Okay. Jordan, where do I want the pounds? On the top or on the bottom?
Pounds to be on the bottom.
Absentively. Kilograms on the top. Jordan, how many kilograms is how many pounds?
0.454 kilograms equals 1 pound.
Am I going to go 150 times 0.454, or am I going to go 150 divided by 0.454?
150 times.
Why times? Because the 0.54 is on the top. Okay. Oh, make sure you go to the nearest kilogram. Follow their rounding off. They will be fussy about rounding off properly, Alex. If you go to one decimal place, they'll mark it wrong, which is dumb, but I'm not in charge.
Isn't it 2.2 pounds equals 1 kilogram?
I don't know.
So here, 1 pound equals 0.455 kilograms. Says right here, 1 pound.
You're looking at the yellow formula sheet that I gave you? This is white. Okay.
It also says 1 pound equals 0.454 kilograms.
Darian, there is a way to put a 1 here and have a conversion factor down here. You'll get the same answer. Is that on your yellow sheet, though? I got 1 pound equals... I'm going to use the conversion factor that they gave me on their sheet, which is that one. Okay? Last one. You think the last question would be an easy walk in the park, or you think it'll be nasty?
I think it'll be pretty difficult.
So let's see. It says this. In other words, I'm expecting this one to be a little outside of the box. I'll deal with it. A ramp is set up using a rectangular piece of wood as shown below. Calculate the area of the plywood. Oh, all they want is the area of that shaded plywood. What shape is that shaded plywood? What's the area of a rectangle? Oh, and you know what? I know the width. I need the length. I'll call that length X. Oh, I think they've given me a lovely triangle here, side view, have they not? This point 8, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? X, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Which trig function? The sine of 9 equals opposite over hypotenuse. X is going to be 0.8 divided by the sine of 9. You know what? Look up, look up, look up, look up, look up. No, look up here. I'm going to get really, really clever. Right? It's going to be 0.8 times 2 divided by the sine of 9. That's length times width, is it not? And I get, how many decimal places did they want me to go to? One? So, 10.2 is what I would fill in the box.
You have to put like the meters with it or no?
They won't require units. There won't be a spot for you to put units on the answer sheet. But they have to tell you the units just because some kids might say, what if I changed everything to centimeters? Right? I mean, you could. It's 200 centimeters along the side width and 80 centimeters high. So they just want to make sure, please make sure you keep everything in meters. That's why they added that phrase. Are we done? No, we skipped a couple of questions. Turn back, if you would, please, to the first question that we skipped, which was number 20. Okay? It says, two isosceles triangles have the same height. I'm going to erase my diagram and do a bit of a better one. The slopes of the sides of triangle A are double the slopes of triangle B. So I'm going to draw triangle B right here. I'm going to try and go same height, that high, and I'm going to look kind of like this. No, you know what? I'm going to exaggerate it more. Whoop, come on. I'm going to go like this. Triangle A says it has twice the slope. What that means is these angles are twice as big. So triangle A is going to be like this and like this, but it's going to be skinnier. Because this angle here is twice as big. Pardon me? I don't know. Let's see. No pun intended. First of all, is this bigger or smaller? Wrong, wrong. Question is, half as big or a quarter as big? Do you all have a piece of graph paper? On the you know what? You have some blank graph paper. I think I included actually on your provincial, didn't I?
Yeah, there is some.
So get the provincial out. Turn to a blank piece of graph paper.
Yep.
This is a job for that graph paper. Let's make up a couple of slopes. On our graph paper, let's draw a triangle and slope B. Let's let slope B, I'm going to make up really nice numbers, be 1 over 2. And I'm going to draw a triangle with a slope of up 1 over 2. I'm going to put a dot right here. Up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1. There is an example of a triangle, of an isosceles triangle that has a slope of 1 over 2. I just made up a nice number. Marcus, what does it say the slope of triangle A is? What's double a slope of 1/2? Is why I picked 1/2. Yep. Sorry? No, slope of 1 over 2 is 1 over 2. What's double that? 2 over 4 is still 1 over 2. You're way too tough. What's doubling a half? 1. 1. Triangle A is going to have a slope of 1 over 1. Now, how high is triangle A? It says it's the same height. In my sketch, Brady, how many squares high is my little triangle here? So triangle A should also be how many squares high? 2. So I'll go like this, that high. But it's going to have a slope of up 1 over 1. You know what? Triangle A, Garrett, has to look like that, based on the numbers that I've made up. You okay with that? You see what I did or not? I said, I'll make up a nice easy slope. I used a half because I knew if I doubled it, 2 halves is 1. My second triangle has a slope of 1 over 1. Now, ready, Garrett, my friend? How big? How many squares? 4? How many squares? Is the base half as big or a quarter as big? What does DOLP stand for? On graph paper. That was the first one we skipped. What was the next one that we skipped?
31.
31. Ooh, boy. I got to pause the video for a second and think about this one. Okay, you ready? Science 10, which most of you are in or have done already. You learned that distance is speed times time. Okay? The first plane flies for how long? There's the time. I'll call it D1 for first plane. How fast does the plane fly? Well, normally it flies at 570. But now it's flying against a headwind. How fast is the headwind? I don't know, but it tells me a variable to use. What variable does it want me to use for the headwind?
W.
If you're heading into the headwind, is that helping you speed up or slow down?
Slow down.
Jordan, the plane's speed would be 570 minus whatever the headwind is. Does that make sense? You're slowing down? Oh, and I would say, no. Okay. The second plane flies for how long? In the opposite direction. Guys, hey! A little focus here, please.
Okay, fine.
The second plane flies in the same direction as the wind. It flies at 570 plus the wind. That's the second plane's distance. You got to go? Okay. Oh, and I know one more thing. Can you read to me the last sentence in the first paragraph, Ben, my friend?
The second plane flies 370 kilometers less than the first plane.
The second plane's distance is the first plane's distance less 370. Psst. Psst. So here's what I have. Here's the first plane. The second plane is 570 plus W times 10, but rather than writing D2, what can I write instead if I want just everything in terms of the first plane's distance? What's D2 the same as? Which is right, A or B? Why? Is that someone's phone? Power it off. Okay, that's a tough one. That's an interdisciplinary, using some Science 10 one. Is the next one that I skipped the vernier caliper one?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to pause the video again. We're nearly done. So let me include the explanation in the video here. The answer is C, 19.5. To read this, the first thing that you do is you go to where the 0 is, which is right there, and that tells you that you're bigger than 19 millimeters. Then you scroll along this scale until you find two lines that exactly overlap, that exactly match, and because it's digital on the provincial, there will be two that exactly match. In real life, sometimes you got to pick the closest one, but these ones exactly match, and the second decimal is a 5, so this is 19.5 millimeters. And you know that that second one is the decimal because that's the 0.1 of a millimeter. Ladies and gentlemen, there is your provincial exam, sample A. Sample B has some nasties on it, but if you want to use that to study, you can. Little reminder, Mr. Rocco's going today after school. Mr. Rocco's going tomorrow after school. And Sam, once your attention span is back here, I'm going tomorrow night from 7 to 9 p.m. I'll probably go through sample exam B then, which has got some yuckies. When's your test? Wednesday morning, 9 a.m.